In this video, I'm going to discuss procrastination, what it really is, why it happens, and what you could potentially do about it when it comes down to, wanting to get productive or working on your business. Because a lot of entrepreneurs and affiliate marketers are saying they're stuck, they're unmotivated, or they're overwhelmed. And I want to explain how you can actually recognize whether it's procrastination or maybe you just need a break, right? How do you tell the difference between the two? Now, the first thing that it's really important to understand this first is that procrastination is a survival response. When you are procrastinating, you are going into fight or flight. Okay. You're seeing what is in front of you. You're seeing this task that's in front of you. For some reason, you're seeing more drawbacks than benefits. You're seeing it as scary, right? Or you're seeing it as not beneficial to your life. And that's the problem. That's where procrastination really comes in, because your brain is just trying to help you survive. At some point, you told your brain that it was a danger, and so it just thinks it's protecting you. That's all that's happening. And so a couple questions you can kind of ask yourself is, do I need to do this thing to move forward? Sometimes we might procrastinate on something and we don't actually need to do that thing. It might be that our brain actually is protecting us from either risking our lives or risking, injury or pain, or just wasting our time. It doesn't want to do that either, because that's perceived future pain. And so look at whether you actually need to do that thing to move forward. That's number one. And number two, are you replacing it with something easier? When we procrastinate, it's not just, you don't do anything at all. You'll actually replace it with something easier, like video games or going out to a bar or, just seeing friends, or even doing chores around the house can be a form of procrastination if there's something you really need to get done that you're not doing. So you can ask yourself those questions to figure out whether you're actually procrastinating. Most people assume procrastination is about poor time management or lack of willpower, but in my experience, the thing that's actually driving it beneath the surface is that you're avoiding something deeper, right? I mentioned just before that it's a survival response, and it's not always to protect your life. If you're actually procrastinating, most of the time there's something deeper going on beneath the surface, where there's actually a story that you've made up, and this story can come in the form of an actual belief that's ingrained into who you are. And so if you try to go and do something that you're afraid of doing because of some belief or story that you've made up, your brain will try to think of other ways to get out of it. If you have not confronted that belief, or you've buried it really deep down, that can be the case. It's been that way for me for many things, right? Many times I've found stories that have been buried really deep where I didn't know what they were right away until I dug at them and felt the pain and let myself move through that more. So you might have to uncover some stories, but sometimes trying to do that thing you've been avoiding goes against the very beliefs that you have about reality. And because of that, your brain will self-sabotage. It'll try to find ways to get out of it. And I also want to clear up the myth that some people think they're lazy or lack discipline. I don't think that's really the case. What's happening usually when someone avoids something important or people think they're lazy is some people just don't know how to confront it. And I would actually say there's sort of three buckets here, where I do not believe people are lazy, because I believe when it comes to something that you really value or think is important, you will actually go do it. And we'll get to that in a second. But there's sort of three buckets I want to address here. Some people don't know how to confront it, even though they're willing to. You might fall into this bucket where you're like, I know I procrastinate. I really want it to stop, but I don't actually know what steps to take to overcome this problem. Great. I'll have something for you later. Some people, this is bucket number two. Some people are too afraid or don't have someone to open up to. This might be you as well. I can relate when, I say that family members were not as easy to open up to when I was growing up. It was not very easy for me. And sometimes friends were not easy to open up to either. And oftentimes I felt alone, like I didn't have anyone to talk about my problems with, and I was just kind of trying to figure them out myself. And that can be a really frustrating and very sad situation to be in. And so that can be another bucket you fall into. Some people decide it's just easier to give up and move on and, not go after their dreams. I hope that you're not in this bucket, but you might be in this bucket too. Whether you're in any of these three places, I can help you out. If you stick until the end of this video, I've got something that you're probably going to want to see, but this is typically what's happening beneath the surface when people think they're lazy or they think something's wrong with them. Maybe you don't know how to confront it. Maybe you don't have someone to talk to, or you're afraid to confront that thing. Maybe you have someone to talk to, but it's scary to talk to them about it. Or, maybe you've decided it's just easier to give up on it. I hope that's not you, but if it is, keep watching. When helping a lot of my students with this, with procrastination, I've actually helped them alleviate or break free from this habit completely. So I want to share with you the biggest mindset shift that I've observed that they've gone through that has helped them. And the real thing that's happening, I kind of mentioned this before, is that you realize how important that thing is. Whether you're procrastinating on videos or writing copy or sending out emails or posting on social media, or I don't know, whatever it is, getting on stage and speaking, that's scary for a lot of people, right? You realize the true importance of the thing you've been procrastinating on. Once you do that, you'll stop procrastinating on it, almost guaranteed. You might think that thing is important now, but here's the deal. I'm no stranger to this, so I'm opening up to you right here. This is something that I've experienced a lot throughout my life, where I know something is important, but I don't actually feel its importance. Does that make sense? Here's an example for parents out there. When I was a kid, there were times when my parents couldn't show up to something like a baseball game or a talent show or something like that. Most of the time they were there, but there were times when they weren't. And I remember those, right? And you might not know as a parent how important that time is or being there until you see the consequences later. That's when you actually realize the importance of it later on when you regret it. So that's just an example, a very extreme one, but an example. Most things that we don't do or don't take action on, we regret later. That's when we realize how important it was. And then we go, shit, I should have done that. Well, yeah, you should have done that, but you didn't realize how important it was. You knew it was important, right? You knew it was important, but you didn't know how important, right? You didn't feel the importance. And so that's why you're not doing it. And so for anyone that's feeling stuck, I want to share a practical step on how you can actually move forward. In the description of this video down below somewhere, there's going to be a link to join Spark. It's just the first module of a course, but that's going to give you some information, insight, and maybe even a tool that you can use to start taking some action toward ending that procrastination that you might be suffering with. So if that interests you, go ahead and click the link in the description down below this video somewhere, and I will see you inside the course.